Hello, my name is Cheryl with the Green Mountain Higher Education Consortium. This video will guide you on how to enter a partially matched invoice. This means that your purchase order, or PO, matches only partially to your invoice. You would partially match an invoice if 1. You are paying a deposit or a percentage of one line, or 2. You received a partial shipment of your goods and were invoiced for them. With one invoice, I'm going to show you how you would pay a deposit or a percentage of a line as well as a partial line. Let's first take a look at the PO I already created. In Oracle, I have pulled up my purchase order information, and when I scroll down, I can show you that I have ordered quite a few things. There's some equipment and some produce from this company. The total amount on my purchase order is $1,870. Now let's take a look at the supplier invoice I received. The supplier has only charged me for a 10% down payment of the equipment, 10 out of 15 cases of the apples, 15 cases of the oranges, and the bananas are currently on back order, so I have not been charged for that. The total on this invoice is $750. So next, what I'm going to do is show you how to pay for this invoice against the current purchase order. I'm going to go back into Oracle, and I'm going to click the home icon. And from the Oracle homepage, I need to go to payables. So in the navigational tabs over here, I'm going to scroll over and go to payables. So I'm going to click the payables tab, and then I'm going to find invoices and click on invoices. This is the invoice homepage, also known as the invoice workbench. From here, I'm going to create my invoice by clicking create. For a fully matched invoice, you may have done this before where you click the match in full button, but in this case, it's not matching in full. We're only doing a partial invoice. So I'm going to click the create button in the midsection of the page. In my invoice in Oracle, I am now going to put in my PO number, which was, according to the invoice on here, was GMPO 1084. So let me go back into here, and I'm going to type in GM PO 1084. Pulls up, I can choose it, and some things are going to fill in: the business unit, my supplier, the supplier site, and I'm going to skip invoice group. And under number, for the invoice number, I am going to use the number that was supplied to me on the supplier's supplier's invoice. So on that invoice, I'm going to go back there. It is right here, 3711. So I'm just going to do a quick copy and paste. 3711. And the total on that invoice was $750 down here at the bottom. Back in Oracle, my amount total will be $750. Under description, you can enter a brief summary of what you are paying for. So I'm just going to type in partially paid amount for PO. The date is going to be the date that is found on my invoice. I'm going to go back to my invoice, and the date on here is September 9th. I'm going to click on September 9th, and now it's there in my date. I'm going to leave my payment terms alone, and I'm also going to leave the terms date alone. Under requester, that is where you put your own name. So you type in your last name, and a list is provided to you. You find yourself, click on it, and now your name is set in as requester. For attachments, go ahead and click the plus button, and I'm going to click browse. And here's my invoice for Black River Produce. It's going to upload, and I will click OK. Next, you will want to click the little gray arrow next to the Match Invoice Lines box. So it's a little hard to see, but here's the Match Invoice Lines box. And right here, that little gray arrow, we're going to click on that. And a pop-up will appear. The line or lines, depending on what is on your PO, are now shown. So I'm going to follow what was on my supplier invoice. The first piece, if you remember, was for the equipment. So I'm going to manipulate this line so it's only 10%. So I'm going to click that match box right there. But under amount, if you recall, I'm only paying $100 according to the supplier's invoice. So I'm going to change the amount to 100. So now I have that set to 100. I'm going to go back to my invoice so I can remember what's in here. Under the apples line, I only received 10 out of 15 cases. So I'm going to actually change the quantity next under the apples line. Back into Oracle, and I'm going to click the apples line. And right here under quantity, I'm going to change this to 10. Now I am not changing the quantity that is on the PO. This is specifically just for the invoice. So the PO will have the 5 extra cases that will be left to be paid on that PO. So now I have the quantity there. I believe for the oranges, I had the full amount, $450. And for the bananas, they are on back order, so I'm not being charged for those right now. I go back into Oracle. For the oranges, I'm just going to go ahead and click it. I'm going to leave it alone because that's the amount that is on my invoice. For the last line, for bananas, those are on back order, so I'm not even going to click this button. We're not paying for it at all. I'm going to go ahead and click Apply at the bottom of that screen. And everything for those 3 lines have been changed, or for that line, it remains the same. And I'm going to click OK. And now, if I scroll down to the bottom of my invoice, the total, $750 total, matches with that green check mark with my $750 up there. So now Oracle knows that I'm only paying for a small amount of my purchase order. The last couple of things you're going to want to do is validate your purchase order, or your invoice, I mean. You're going to validate your invoice and then initiate it for approval. So I'm going to scroll back up and I'm going to click Invoice Actions and I'm going to validate. And when it validates, it's telling me all of my information is correct. And then I'm going to click Invoice Actions and Approval and Initiate. And I'm all set. And as a reminder, just like the purchase orders where you do a fully matched invoice, you do not need to touch the distributions or a DORDA. That information has already been entered when you entered your purchase order, so you are all set to go. Thank you.